toxic masculinity.
Black Lives Matter supporters harass young cheerleaders over their white privilege.
Yeah, I haven't read this yet, so this is like a little bit disconcerting, but let's have a look at this. A megaphone-wielding woman ridiculed their pretty little gorgeous outfits, gorgeous hair, and gorgeous bows. You know what, let's just have a look. I'm going to go ahead and put this on. Let's go. I haven't seen this yet, so let's have a watch.
Do something black today with your white privilege besides cheer. Do something black today with your white privilege besides cheer. The reason why you get to be here in these pretty gorgeous outfits with your gorgeous hair and your gorgeous dome is because of your white privilege. Brianna is dead. Black mothers are burying their babies while white mothers are going to cheer competitions. Black mothers are burying their babies while white mothers send their children to cheer competitions. Do something black today with your white privilege. Thank you. Do something black today with your white privilege. Thank you.
Non-white cheerleaders? That's the problem?
They were, yeah, they were all white, I guess, or something. But wow, you know, I've actually seen that clip on Twitter. It didn't occur to me they were cheerleaders because the caption said something about like little girls. Yeah, this is it. Black Lives Matter activists harass a group of young children in Louisville by mocking them for their white privilege. Yeah, so I did actually see this post by Ian Miles Chong earlier. I just didn't catch that they were cheerleaders. But that's pretty unbelievable. I'm not even going to read the story because you know what? I'm just going to react. Because what a horrible, 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 horrible person. Take a look at this. A 5-ounce solid silver Apollo 11 coin just like this could be yours for free. It's Silver Month over at Noble Gold. The new administration is finally here. Oh, joy. And one of their big things is, as you know, climate change. And renewables need solar panels, electric circuits, and lots of other gizmos that used, you guessed it, silver. With a projected $2 trillion investment, there's never been a better time to profit from the insanity in Washington, D.C. with your silver IRA. Visit the Noble Gold website today at noblegoldinvestments.com. You're yelling at these children for their white privilege? How effing privileged are you with your friggin' megaphone sitting on the corner of the street harassing everybody? You need to get arrested, lady. People shouldn't be allowed to do that. I mean, okay, I get it. We have to have the freedom of speech, but we shouldn't have the freedom of harassment. We shouldn't have the freedom to, like, I mean, okay, I get it. We have to have that freedom because, you know, we have to be able to talk about things that people don't like and make them uncomfortable. But, like, harassing children to me is crossing a line big time. Big time. Before I go off, because I'm going to go off, I want to hear what you have to say about this. Because you're a pretty little cheerleader.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think you're right, because it should be a crime. Harassing children?
Harassing children is way different than just harassing people generally.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen some pretty vicious harassment. But why would you harass little children like that? They didn't do anything to you.
What are parents gonna do now? Because you need, like, explain to them, and what are you gonna say them? That no, it's okay to be white?
Yeah.
Or all of these girls just gonna grow up, change their
You know, it's a good idea. You know how you make people racist? You get people all of the same race to just harass people of another race.
I think they are not going to like you when they grow up.
That's my point. Yeah. If you get a bunch of Black Lives Matter activists going up to little children and every couple of weeks or so going and harassing them, those children are going to grow up thinking black people are crazy, evil psychopaths. And that's a terrible thing, right? I'm sure those little girls probably have some friends that are black and they probably don't, but I mean, what a horrible, horrible woman. And how stupid is she? And how stupid is he? And listen, let me tell you guys a story, because I have a video. I told a story in that video of a good friend of mine named Liz. That I was friends with this woman when I lived in Portland, Oregon. And I think I've told this story once before on this show. And she didn't want me to date this blonde girl that we were going to the same church. And there was a blonde girl at that church, and Liz had been going there for a long time, and I hadn't been going there for very long. And I said, hey, I think I'm gonna ask that girl out. And Liz said, oh, if you ask her out, we can't be friends. So I thought, and Liz was a fat, not attractive girl. Let me just say, well, it's true. It's true. It gives you this look like, don't say that. That's what she is. Okay, she's fat. She's not an attractive woman. Some black women are beautiful. She's not one of them. So she says, I can't be friends with this girl. So I think they have some kind of a problem with each other. So I said, well, what's the deal? Like, do you guys not like each other? What's the deal? She goes, oh, no, I don't know her. I'm like, well, what's your problem with her? She goes, I can't be friends with blonde girls. Especially not beautiful blonde girls. If you date a beautiful blonde girl, we can't be friends. I'm like, what the hell happened to this woman? So I say to her, well, what happened? Like, what's your deal? And she goes, when I was a little kid, when I was a little child, there were these beautiful blonde girls at my school, and they made me feel terrible about myself. And I always hated the fact that I was black, and I hated that I was fat, and it was because of these blonde girls. And I thought,
not because of your genetics, parents, because of random kids.
Well, but here's the thing. So I actually was sympathetic to this because, you know, I don't want to see a girl bullied in school and have her feel bad about herself. So I was like, well, what did they say? What did they do that was so terrible to traumatize her so much that not even a friend of hers could date a blonde girl? So I asked her, and she said, I'm not joking. Oh no, they were really nice to me. I said, well, then if they're really nice to you, why do you hate them so much? She's like, their mere presence, they were so beautiful, and they were so, everything about them was so great that my impression of myself, in contrast to that, was that I didn't like myself. Okay, that's terrible. That's really sad, I think. Okay. But you can't blame all beautiful blonde women for the rest of your life because you feel ugly next to them. It's not their fault. They didn't make themselves beautiful. That's just what happened. Sorry, lady. So now she's like comfortable being black. She's comfortable being fat. She's like happy with herself. But I guess this is like this happiness with herself is predicated on never interacting with a blonde girl ever again.
Yes.
I mean, she is essentially a bigot. Because she can't, but see, I think that this problem is kind of pervasive. If you're somebody who looks at other people and you compare yourselves to them all the time, then you're going to be a hateful person. You know, I'm trying to think of somebody who's better than me so I can say how much I hate them as a joke, but I can't think of anyone. Now, that's not because I'm the best person in the world. That's just because I can't think very well because I didn't get much sleep last night. But you get the idea of the joke. It was supposed to be funny. Anyway. Moving on. That's
okay, guys. I guess we can start taking some questions.
No, we can't, because I'm not done ranting. So, my point about this is that I think this is actually kind of a common thing. I speculated about this in the video, and this is why the video got so many views. It's very controversial. I said I think this may be a cultural perception of white people from black people, because white people, we don't really think too much about the history of white culture and how, you know, the Wright brothers invented the airplane, and before that it was like a German guy whose name I can't remember who developed the glider.
First flight by a human being. It was built and flown by the engineer Otto Lilienthal.
And it was a German guy who invented the car.
Carl Benz was aiming for the development of an entire vehicle. In 1886, he was able to present his first Benz patent motor car to the public.
And white people invented the wheel. I mean, you could go back that far. Oh, we've invented everything, right? We invented computers. We invented, you know, the engineering.
What about peanut butter?
White people actually invented peanut butter. You guys can look it up. That was a myth.
Forget about this.
George Washington Carver did not invent peanut butter, although he was a smart man and he did a lot of good science. But he actually didn't invent peanut butter. People would be surprised to know that.
What about George Washington Carver? Didn't he invent peanut butter? The short answer is no.
Instead, that credit goes to this guy, a Canadian with the extremely 19th century name of Marcellus Gilmore Edson.
Because of my interaction with this girl, and I started to see parallels between what she was saying and how black people talk about white people. So, like, what I'm trying to say is, white people take for granted that white people developed Western civilization, and we don't actually most white people, I've never heard of a white person saying, oh, I'm awesome because white people historically were awesome. Like, I'm awesome because the Wright brothers were awesome. I'm awesome because Alexander Graham Bell was awesome. I'm awesome because, nobody looks at the inventors of history or the people that contributed a lot to society or great kings or great presidents and says, oh, I'm the same color as that person, therefore I'm great too. No white person thinks like that. White people just don't think like that. But black people, for some reason, at least not all black people, obviously, but the ones that these insufferable ones like her, they'll look at white people and say, oh, you can look to all this great stuff and see how great you are, but we don't have any great people to look at and say how great we are. I mean, they have a few. They have like Martin Luther King Jr., certain kinds of people, but it's not like an entire society full of people who developed Western civilization. I mean, when Europeans and black people met, Europeans were in a highly advanced society, and black people were essentially Neolithic. They were the equivalent of Neolithic white people. So there is, I think that this, and white people never talk about that. We never think about that because it is something that is a little bit, obviously we would think people might be sensitive about that, especially considering that if you meet a black person today, they're obviously not Neolithic. They can have, they can be incredibly, they can be far more intelligent than you are. They can be far better in just about every single aspect. And so, typically in our society, we tend to treat everybody by their individual character as opposed to what race they're from. But other types of people don't necessarily see the world that way. And white people forget that because we're sort of conditioned to see people by their character, whereas black people don't always do that. Like a woman like her, she looks at all those white girls and says, oh, you all have privilege. You are all part of a group. You are all bad, or you're all this or whatever. That's not the way people should think about things. But when you think about groups like that, you then can start to resent the group. So I do think people like her screaming at those little girls, she's just resentful of the whole white race because she's jealous of them. Mm-hmm. And the key thing that makes me think that is her saying, you girls with your pretty bows and your pretty hair and your pretty dresses and all this kind of stuff. It's like, girl, why are you jealous of children? Yeah, they're children. Yeah, they're cute. But you're a grown woman and you're jealous of these kids? Grow the
How
F
insecure
up.
she is.
Unbelievable. Just absolutely disgusting. There's obviously something wrong with her. But
3 super chats.
All right, I'll shut up. All right, on to the questions and comments. Thank you for the super chats, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry I went on so long, but I am pissed.
Okay, first one. Stefan, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Well, I just call you Stefan. Says, Meghan Markle for president, ... of the Victimhood Society.
Meghan Markle, the president of the Victimhood Society. I love it.
Okay.
I love that.
Next one, Frank James.
Mm-hmm.
In 40 years old, I've never seen so much racism as I've seen in the last 5 to 8 years. Racism was dying, and the left is breathing life back into it. Into it.
Yeah. Well, what's weird is, we basically killed off racism in the 80s. Like when I was growing up, we didn't have that really any racism, at least where I was growing up. And I think probably in places in America where there was racism, it was probably dying out. But the left went too far. They were like, okay, we want black people to be accepted in every field. We want people to be accepted in society and all this kind of stuff. And pretty much every white person across the board was like finally coming and saying, okay, yeah, that's great. And then someone's, because you get these race baiters and their whole career is based on creating tension between the races. They're not creating tension, but pointing out problems and pointing out issues and pointing out racists. Once they didn't have any racists to point out and criticize, they had to create tension. They had to point out little things that weren't necessarily racism and invent something and say, oh, that's actually bad, that's actually racist. So they created all these new classes of racism, these stupid ideas, these things that aren't racist at all. They'd point out and say, oh, that's racist, because they wanted to keep it going. They wanted to keep the whole victim thing going. They wanted to keep the whole oppression thing going, so they still had something to talk about. And it's those people who ruined it for everybody. But then it went a step further than that even, and people could no longer really... they were still lying and saying there was all this racism in America, but they went one step further and said, not only do black people deserve to be equal to white people because of the history of oppression and because black people were held back for so long, black people deserve to be better than white people. They deserve to have more. They deserve to have more without actually doing any work or trying to achieve anything. They just deserve. And this was a mistake, because then every single white person who hasn't really had, you know, a good hand dealt to them in life is like, well, back the truck up, a-hole. No, you don't deserve anything for doing nothing. You deserve nothing for doing nothing. And if you work hard and you do right, and you know, maybe you deserve something then. But I've worked hard my whole life and I don't have anything. What the hell do you deserve something for? Because your ancestors were hurt? My ancestors, I'm sure, were hurt too. People don't recognize how hard most people's ancestors had it. Most people's ancestors did not have it good. Just because everybody's ancestor wasn't a slave, that doesn't mean they were like, you know, living the high life. All of our ancestors weren't friggin' Meghan Markle. Anyway, moving on to the next question. Let's see. Anonymous writes, Chris is an amazing actor. He's playing the part of a conservative. He's actually a communist. Yes, this whole time. I don't think that's possible. I've talked to some other conservatives about it. And you really can't do this job if you're faking, because I don't know how you could. I don't know how you could be genuine.
Well, I'm faking that I'm leftist every time I see crop talks about
out here
Trump
in
and
Hollywood.
Republicans.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, sure.
Let me guys tell you a story about Hollywood real quick. So there was one time when I was on a TV show working as a PA. This is a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago or something like that, like 2005, I think, 2005. And my brother came to visit the set. This is over at Warner Brothers, and so I was hanging out with the actress who starred in the TV show. She used to have all the guys, all the hot guys from set used to go have drinks in her dressing room after the like a little party, like a mini party after we would shoot. Right, they would have the main party on the soundstage, and then there was like the hot guys party in her dressing room. It's just it's true. That's what we do. It's weird. Anyway, so I mean, it was just chit chat. It wasn't anything weird. Glasses of wine and chit chat. And so one day, so I asked my brother came around and I asked her if he could come hang out with us. So my brother was hanging out, and at one point it was me and my brother and her and one of the managers of one of the other actors. And the two of them were mainly doing the talking, and they were just talking so much crap about Republicans and saying all this nasty stuff. And I could see my brother getting more and more angry, you know.
Which one was it?
John, my brother John. And you could see
because that would be Nick. He would kill everyone there. Okay.
I know. And I could just see my brother like looking back and forth as they're talking, like watching a tennis match, and just getting more and more angry. And I could tell that he was just like, that he wanted to say something. I didn't want him to say anything. And I was kind of freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired. You know, I was pretty young, and I was like, I think I was 25. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So then suddenly, as the tension is building, I just go, like, you know, in the conversation, everybody looked at me like, what was that? And I'm like, I don't know. You know, and then we laughed, and my brother was like, why did you make that noise? I'm like, I thought you were going to say something. And he's like, I'm not an idiot. I wasn't going to say anything. I'm like, okay, well, that's a stupid thing for me to do then. You know? But I was terrified. That he was going to say something.
Well, I kind of know how to spot conservative on studios like Sony Pictures and other.
Yeah.
After we were done, I went to the parking garage and called elevator, and the other crew guy, the kind of old white guy, came.
Yeah.
And we went to elevator and just both took the masks off and looked at each other.
Oh, so you've got a nice symbol now.
And looked at each other
like,
and he has an American flag on his
perfect,
head, and
yeah.
I was like, we know what.
You're like, you know who my husband is, don't you? And, no. When I was on that same show, there was a guy named, I think his name was Hector. It's a long time ago. I can't remember, but it was a black guy. And he said something once political a little bit, and I kind of was like, no, it can't be. So I was like, hey, Hector. And so we start talking, and I'm like, holy crap, he was a Republican. And so like teenage girls talking about the you know, the hot quarterback or something in junior high school, we would sneak off to the corner and we would talk about being a Republican. And, you know, it was like we'd have these secret, like all the time on set, we'd be like, let's talk. We'd sneak around, you know, like, It was like our little secret, you know. We couldn't tell anybody. But oh man, yeah, I love that guy. He was such a breath of fresh air when you're in Hollywood and you find a Republican, you can sneak off and talk. Oh, it's an amazing feeling. It's like a brother. The guy's like a brother.
I have another super chat.
Oh, okay.
Jordan B, what topics do you both of you talk about most in 2021?
What do we talk about? What do we
Race.
talk about? Oh, well, you mean on the show? We talk
Yeah.
about race. We talk about race. I hate talking about race. I'm gonna
hate,
tell you,
I hate
I'm
talking
so
about it
sick
too.
of it.
That's why we get demonetized all the time.
Well, I'll tell you what. So, but it is a topic that we need to talk about because it just comes up all the time. But what do we talk about in private? Because we don't really talk politics that much in private.
You
think we do?
sure?
Well, if if we read something funny or interesting in the news. But like, what do we talk about in 2021? We don't actually talk really about COVID that much. We don't. What do we talk about? What do we talk about?
We talk about everything: COVID, politics, traveling, moving out, get the hell out.
Yeah, we
California.
bicker a little bit. The one difference Valeria and I have is where we want to live. We have very distinct ideas about where we want to live or where we don't want to live. And so, like for instance, I'm like, we can move wherever we want. I mean, except for she can't leave the country, so we can't leave the country. But I said, well, we can move to Hawaii.
Most common topic: Chris's ex-girlfriends. True.
Dude, seriously? Wait, I mean, I'm not in trouble here yet. You don't need to get me in trouble. Yeah. Anyway, I don't. We talk about moving a lot, actually, way more than we should. I broke the bed today, and it wasn't even doing anything fun. There was no we weren't even exercising. Yeah, I just sat on the bed and it broke because I'm so unbelievably fat. We talk about that quite a bit, how fat I am. Oh, I need more shirts because I've gained another size. I actually bought a bunch of shirts that were way too big, and I had to return them. I overestimated how big I was. Yeah, but that bed right there. So you guys can't see it, but so I laid down the bed, and I think there was a crack in the wood or something because it literally split the wood in half. It didn't even make sense how it broke. It must have been. I'm calling this a manufactured defect because I may be fat, but that's ridiculous. Anyways, the bed broke. I sunk way down, and I had to get up, and then I was trying to get her to hold the little piece of wood up while I
Broke
drilled.
the bed, no collar is required.
I was trying to drill screws into it, but Valeria couldn't hold it up, so I had to hold it up because it was a little bit heavy. I had to hold it up and pinch it in while she drilled all the screws into it. Yeah, that isn't a euphemism. That's regular. This literal. Anyway, so yeah, we got it back together. I think it's stable. What do you think? I think it can hold my weight. Yeah. Oh, we're losing viewers. Listen, viewers, we better go. Chris broke the bed.
Let's
Quit
go.
bragging. Yeah, Zombie Teddy says quit bragging. I do suspect that it is from a little bit of overuse over the past years, but we sleep hard. We're hard sleepers. All right, shall we go?
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm done. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for a lovely episode, for sticking with us, even though we're talking about our marital issues. And we will be back tomorrow, so hopefully we'll have some good stories then. Until then, you have a wonderful night. You want to say goodbye?
Good. I'm just reading people's comments.
You want to read one last comment before you go?
I just like that comment from, I think Jesus is God saying one word, 3 letters, fat, 3 exclamation mark.
You need to change your name from Jesus is God to I'm not very nice.
Okay. Chat disconnected. Okay. We need to be done. There's some problem with connections.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are out. We'll see you tomorrow night. Toxic Masculinity. Weekdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.